I was lucky enough to be on the team that developed the blueprint for the Sustainable Development Goals as the logistics coordinator. And when they came into being, the question was, how are we going to get the Sustainable Development Goals out to people, make them resonate, make them engaging, and also activate people into doing something for them. And one of the areas that I was kind of seeing a little bit of a gap for was for children. How do we reach the youth? How do we make these kind of complex, esoteric goals real and exciting for them? So I found my way to, it was the same week that the New York Comic-Con was happening. And if you've never been to a Comic-Con, I highly recommend it, even as just an anthropological experience, because it's quite a scene. You really see how passionate people are about comics themselves. And that got me thinking that maybe comics was going to be a very effective medium for getting the word out. So we created something called Comics Uniting Nations with a goal of illustrating the Sustainable Development Goals through comics. And we launched with a really fun partnership with, of course, the penultimate UN organization that focuses on youth, and that's UNICEF. So I'll come back a little bit more to Comics Uniting Nations, but want to toss it over to Alex to describe why this is important in a UN context and what UNICEF is doing to push it out there.
Yes, thank you so much. I think it's really exciting that this is all happening now. I mean, I think it's very clear. If you talk about the SDGs, you talk about climate change, it is all about empowering, inspiring children to demand action and to start taking action themselves. And of course, that is not only at school, that is also at home, at playground, on the sports field, everywhere they need to engage. And I think that's where the world's largest lesson, that is where Comics Uniting Nations really comes into the picture. And we really need to be successful here. Really, if we are serious about it, we really have to deliver results on this. Also, as UNICEF, we really realize this is part of our responsibility to respond to that demand and that interest from children to be so much involved in this. They are very passionate about protecting the planet, and we need to help them and empowering them with taking action. So we are very happy that we are one of the founding partners of the world's largest lessons and Comics Uniting Nations. That, of course, all really kick-started shortly after the SDGs were agreed in 2015. I mean, the world's largest lesson is really about reaching all the children on the planet with very clear messages around the SDGs, including climate change. Lesson plans, comics, videos, all kinds of materials. And since 2015, we have already reached millions of children around the world with it through partners and many others. And I think what great is about this, it's free. You can access it everywhere. It's available in different languages, and it's also accessible for children with disabilities. Our role as UNICEF in the world's largest lesson is to help with producing the contents, reviewing materials and support the dissemination both globally but also at country level through ministries of education. And actually over 32 ministers themselves have been actively involved in teaching children on the SDGs and climate change. With Comics Uniting Nations, we are collaborating with production, providing feedback on the contents, and sharing and integrating it also in all the work we do as UNICEF in education as a whole. I think what was really exciting is when we recently did a survey, it was clear that actually the learning plans, the lesson plans on climate change and sustainable living were those that were mostly downloaded. So there clearly is a strong demand for it. And also what was interesting is that it's not only regarded as informal learning. Many teachers really take the materials and use it for formal learning in the school itself as well. They take it as key contents for the classroom, a way of introducing the SDGs in a very child-friendly manner. I think what I really enjoyed was that we also got the work started with Denis, with Hippo Works. At one stage, I got an email from someone who did some video on hippos and climate change, Simon Says. And I looked at it and I immediately realized this is a winner. This is really important material because this is the kind of stuff that we need. It's not only about somewhat older children, but also the younger kids that really need to learn about climate change. And I looked at it, my own kids looked at it, and then when we really started that collaboration and others in UNICEF picked it up and really started to run with it, we realized there is so much interest and support for this type of work. We need to go in all out. And I'm really excited that now also we have the comics book released very recently. So that is all great news. And indeed, there is so much demand also here over the last couple of days to have it translated in at least an additional 5, 6, 7 languages. So I think it's going to spread the word around climate change and clear messages for kids. Finally, I think which is also really great is that the President of the General Assembly, Ambassador Peter Thompson, recently reminded all world leaders that children have to learn about the SDGs. They have to learn about climate change. So we really look forward as UNICEF to work with Comics Uniting Nations, the world's largest lesson, and all the partners to really bring this to the next level. I think the bottom line is we are just getting started and we're going to go in all out. Thank you.
So we have one of the artists here who is now debuting his new comic. Denis, tell us your story.
Well, thank you very much, Natabara, and also Alex. I'm so thankful to work with both of you. And several years ago, I began creating cartoons with, I got my start actually with AOL and then National Geographic Kids and other websites. And I had found that they were just funny cartoons, but I let the animals really talk about the issues that mattered to them. And they're in a way on the front lines on the environment, and I just found that they wanted to talk about all the issues just as we do, except really they're the ones who are suffering more than we are. And so I just kind of went with that as a theme, and I put together a half hour because I kept getting feedback about the cartoons I was doing on climate change. I produced this half hour, and NASA picked it up, and they were showing it at their JPL in California, and a manager there said, "Oh, you should get in touch with UNICEF." So I then sent that email to Alex, and they really responded, and I was so lucky that we got connected. And now we've put together, apart from the half hour, we've edited that, made it clear how the book the cartoon shares about 13 of the 17 global goals, and then we've now launched the comic specifically to reach people obviously in a printed form, so that we can reach more kids who don't have digital access. And what I just wanted to really mention is that what I've really endeavored to do is make it as fun as possible and joyful. And in the story really is, even though it's a hippo, Simon's the hippo. Then there's Peep the bird, Suzanne, who's a crystal goddess and she has magical powers. There's Bob, who's a rodent. And Bob the rodent has really bad habits. He's kind of our worst self. And he will not pay attention. He doesn't really care. He'll pollute. And it's really, the story is his more than anyone else's, because you need conflict in every story. And so kids can see the change that Bob goes through to realize that, wow, my actions have consequences. And that's what, in that is the story arc, then to layer in all of the information about the global goals. So it's a matter of entertainment and education, and at the end, Bob realizes what he's doing is wrong, and he takes action because he realized that even rodents might not survive if we don't take care of this issue. So that's the general arc, and the animals at the end. I would say the last third of the comic are really about solutions, and that's where we can inspire kids to take action on simple things that they can also do, from composting to recycling, and even like buying carbon offsets and planting trees. So,
So if you've ever grown up with Richard Scarry's books, as some of us are old enough to remember, I just love Denis's style because it's just so, there's just so much character and fun to it. And as you'll see with comicsunitingnations.org, where you can download any of these comics, it covers quite a range of different ages that it speaks to. Our first comic was actually with Project Everyone. It was to introduce the Sustainable Development Goals or Global Goals to kids and kind of explain their context, how they came about, why they're important, and what they can do. Our next comic was to illustrate each of the goals, one page each. So let's say for number 8, decent work and economic growth. Here's a set of panels that makes it real and accessible for pretty much all ages. And these, again, can be just esoteric, pie-in-the-sky goals that really are distant to kids, but this makes it real to them, gets them engaged, and gets them thinking about what they want to do. Now, after that came a really fun one. This is on gender equality, so SDG number 5. And it's a real fun story arc. This is actually a Stan Lee character. It's the first Indian superhero character. And we kind of hit it at the right time because they're making the first Bollywood film on Chakra the Invincible. But it's, again, story arcs are really important. And in this one, Chakra, he's the biotech engineer in Bangalore who has created a suit that activates all his chakras, and he has special powers. So he also has a friend next door named Leela who knows who he is and knows his secret identity and kind of teases him. But he starts to kind of get wind of the fact that she has life a little bit different than him as a young girl in India. And somehow they touch a radioactive meteor, they switch minds, and now he has to live a day in her shoes and see how difficult it is for an Indian girl to go through her day, do the cooking, do the chores, maybe or maybe not get to her homework, and probably not play to the extent that the boys do. Now, at the same time, she is out as Chakra, kind of experiencing superpowers, multitasking, which men don't quite do as well as women. So it shows a little nod to the capacities of women over men. And in the end, he's the transformative character, like the rodent Bob. And this is really important to show a way that kids can identify with a character that has a transformation for the positive. So one more climate change. So if we want to hold these two up. These are our 2 climate change comics. So we have another Chakra comic on climate change, and now Denis's comic on Hippo works, which we're really excited because this one reaches pretty much all ages. And the partnership with UNICEF and the World's Largest Lesson is really important because the World's Largest Lesson is the distribution channel that gets out to schools around the world. We may not be able to get printed versions as much as we'd love to kids everywhere, but the digital versions can get shared with classrooms. And we have online on the World's Largest Lesson a comics user guide for teachers to use to see how they can bring it into the classroom and share. And now we're adding Hippo Works as kind of our feature climate change comic now. So we have some samples here. We also have a hunger comic that just came out. We launched at the New York Comic Con, and we're pretty excited. Well, it's not official yet, but we have some comics coming out of Saudi Arabia that are going to be developed using female superheroes from Saudi Arabia. Kind of fun, yeah. So I just want to thank Denis for he's done much more than just this comic. Up to this point, he's been sharing his Hippo works in different mediums with NASA and others, and now we're excited to have him on board for Comics Uniting Nations, and also UNICEF for their UNICEF is like the gold standard of children's entities, humanitarian efforts around the world, and to have UNICEF as a partner is really fun. Oh, okay, so I guess I got to plug the website. So comicsunitingnations.org is where you can download any of these comics, bring them to your tablet or laptop or whatever, and print them out if you have the luxury of a color printer. And just one little side note, we gave a presentation at the Media for Social Impact Summit at the UN, and afterwards the vice president of Sony came up to me and said, "Hey, love your comics, been sharing them with my kids." And it was a big surprise. It's like, first, this is the vice president of Sony telling me this, and also, how did he find out about it? So the word is getting out, and we're asking if you can also help share and get that word out even further, because I guess I shouldn't say this, but I'm not really a comics fan, but this is turning me into one, because I can see how powerful the medium is to engage people, and also, if you're really good, educate and build awareness and also inspire action in the process. I mean, this comic is for younger kids, but somehow he makes global warming and carbon, I mean, he makes it real to kids, and that's a real feat. So maybe you can explain a little bit about that and what that took.
It's what I do is I illustrate carbon dioxide and I illustrate methane, and then talk about those really like scientific, those gases, but in a way where I try to make it as fun as possible. So, for example, with methane, we know that animal agriculture is one of the great causes of climate change, and so there's a whole sequence on the power of poop, and so one of the characters takes a poop, and they go through the whole process of what that actually does to the environment, and so that tangible thing that at the same time kids love, we know, scatological humor or farts, whatever. So I put that in there. Like, that's a way to communicate, and kids will understand. And it's real. It's not gratuitous when we talk about poop and climate change. So that's one way in which I feel that, you know, it's being honest with kids and at the same time throwing in as many jokes as you can.
So should we take questions, or Alex, you want to add anything?
Well, I don't think that there's that much to add. I mean, the cartoons, they really speak for themselves. So I think that's the most important thing. You have to, you know, look at it, read it, enjoy it, and share it. And we need to go as wide and global as possible, because there is so much to take away from it. It's such an easy way, an engaging way to understand and really appreciate it. So we will definitely do everything we can also as UNICEF to spread the word around Save the Climate with Simon the Hippo, but also, of course, all the other comics that are being produced around the world, also here in Morocco.
Oh, I should mention, we have another comic on climate change coming out very soon called Santa's Green Christmas. And Santa starts to find his job very challenging now due to climate change. So that is debuting Friday. And we also have an exciting one coming up on Life Below Water. And that's being illustrated by a famous DC comics artist who does the Batman comics, Bernard Chang. So we're excited about that. And we also have a new character that's being created. Some of us remember Captain Planet, who's kind of been retired, unfortunately. But a new comic hero is being created called Gridiron Green, Guardian of the Planet. NFL football player by day, fullback, and an environmental hero by night. And this one is actually created by Ovi Mugelli, who's a former fullback for the Atlanta Falcons, Pro Bowl player. And we're really excited about that. So our ultimate goal is to illustrate every single one of the SDGs and then gather them as a compendium to have a published full version when we have reached that goal. So goals abound. And should we take questions? And I don't know how to do this with the microphone. Should I just hand it? And you want to come up and... Okay, so comicsunitingnations.org. You can go there and download them for free. They also have a viewer. So if you have a tablet or something, you can go to the viewer and watch them. Now, if you go to a particular comic, you will see languages underneath. So you can click on the particular language that you want. We are eager to translate these comics into many languages. So if you have professional skills in that area and you want to have a certain language version come out, please be in touch through our website, and we'd love to get that translated. Yes?
There are a couple of our country offices that are already working with comics in the context of school curricula and so on, including here in Morocco. They're working on it, but also in Guyana. And I definitely see that there is appetite for doing much more of that. So yeah, that there is more to come. And I also really expect that we will be able to translate much more into local languages, and also really tap into the local artists, that they develop more and more comics, and also be inspired by the work that we are distributing globally.
Well, and then also that's the world's largest lesson is distributing to a lot of the schools. So.
Yeah. If you look up World's Largest Lesson online, they have a whole curriculum on the SDGs. And what they've done is they've engaged with the ministries of education around the world to try to create a partnership where those ministries will push it out to their school systems. It's up to the school system whether they want to include it in their curriculum, although in some countries a little bit more forceful of a request, and we're happy about that. But it is a bit of word of mouth, but it's also going through these channels to try to reach school systems. But again, once we get, we do have a critical mass, I think, of comics. And once that builds, as we know, the Sustainable Development Goals go until 2030. So even content that's creating now is going to reach kids that have not yet been born for the tail end of the 2020s. So we're trying, and we'd love to get your help in getting the word out. Yeah? Yes?
I heard that Hippo Works has games to help children retain the information that they see in the videos and in the comics. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we also have, so online, if you want to come to the website, hippoworks.com, we'll have games up shortly that help kids to reduce their carbon actually by playing games that earn square feet of jungle, so that they have a tangible way in which to offset their carbon by just playing games. So many games obviously don't have that feature, and if we can help kids to actually do something positive just through a habit that they already love and enjoy doing, then I feel we'll be able to help contribute.
Okay. I think we had a great time here. Thank you for having us. I think we've solved all global problems, right? We're good.
Or by 2030 we'll have.
Yeah, by 2030.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you all.
Thank you.